Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Guy.
Very good to see you here in
See you
Barcelona.
too. Mm-hmm.
So we've spoken before, and you actually have a really interesting job. It's much more than meets the eye. What are the areas that you're responsible for at AVIXA?
So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of AVIXA, right? So that sounds like it's just a marketing job, and it's not. I do have marketing. I have a team that's responsible for all of our branding and promotion and that kind of thing. But I also have communications, which is all of our media and social media and strategic relationships, all of the outreach stuff. I have our market intelligence team, so all of our data gathering and data services, and we report out to the industry and let the industry know about what we see as the key trends that are going to impact us. And then I have two separate content teams. I have a content creation team, which is responsible for all of our education, curriculum, all of the summits that we're doing here at ISE. And then I have a content delivery team, which is all of our kind of digital operations team. So website, content management systems, learning management systems, all the stuff that you need, today when so much content is being consumed online.
Got it. Okay. So that's quite a broad area. With that background, what are you most excited about at the show currently?
Do you know what, Guy? We're on morning of day 3, and I keep hearing this narrative of ISE is back. ISE is back, and I think yes, that's true. Yeah. We are back to something like a pre-pandemic event. Yeah. But I think it's missing the point, because this show is nothing like any pre-pandemic show that we had in Amsterdam. It's for me anyway. I mean, it's so different. I think it's partly because of the venue and what the venue has allowed us and allowed the ISE team to do. There's more space. It's more logically laid out. Yeah. I think we get a lot more support from local government here. It's more of a kind of a mixed economy. It's not just a private sector show. It feels like somewhere where the AV industry is a kind of a public-private partnership, if you like. So we're able to do all these kind of pavilions with local Catalan groups, business groups, and so on, where they can they subsidise the presence of small up-and-coming companies, local startups, that kind of thing, which gives the show a different kind of energy, and an energy that it didn't have, I think, in Amsterdam. And then I think you've got that kind of evolution from a sort of a trade show that's just rows and aisles of exhibit stands. That's all great, of course. But what ISE has been able to do is it's been able to use some of this additional space to do some really kind of cool activations, tunnels of light and digital art galleries and, virtual production studios and that kind of stuff, which just act as a kind of a perfect showcase for some of the really kind of emerging technologies, and they make the show more interesting. It's a more interesting place to just kind of walk around. There's very few kind of bare walkways or corridors or whatever, where you're just kind of looking out across the skyline. Everywhere you turn, there's some kind of AV-inspired experience. And then I think the last part of it that I would sort of refer to is the fact that I mentioned it just now. AVIXA has been producing most of the summits this year, and again, just a fantastic conference facility that we didn't have in Amsterdam. Really beautifully laid out, really easy to separate conference tracks from each other. Have really good AV, which is pretty important when you
should tell us we do events for an AV crowd. And it gets
noticed. It's a tough crowd. If the AV is not good, you hear about it pretty quickly. So really good AV, really good meeting room setups, really good sort of communal F&B areas. So that facilitates networking. I think we've done between 8-9 conferences here. Almost all of them are packed as far as I can see. Many of them are standing room only. And I think what that tells us is there is more to the industry than, as I say, than just those exhibit stands. There's networking that can be done on the stands, of course, but mainly that's people already know each other.
Sure.
And I think where the content comes in and where it's so important is bringing people from different backgrounds together that otherwise wouldn't have each other's contact information, and that exchange of kind of ideas and different backgrounds and different areas of expertise is critical as the industry kind of grows and diversifies.
Sure. I mean, it's interesting because you led one content session, or you co-chaired one content session yourself about marketing.
I did yesterday, yeah.
How did you find that?
It was, so we launched a thing called AVIXA Xchange, which is our kind of global online AV community. Only about 8 months ago, actually. Feels like a lifetime, but it's actually it's still very, very young. And what we thought we'd do here, we tried it actually for the first time at the Infocom show in Las Vegas last June, in a very kind of small way, and we don't, because we'd only just launched Exchange, it was a little bit seat of the pants, let's just say, but as an interesting start. And what we found was there was a need for, what we felt, I suppose, was there was a need for a different kind of content. So not a training session, not an educator talking to a classroom of students.
Sure.
Not a panel discussion of experts, sitting on a stage and discuss. That's all. Those things are all great. But what we did with the marketers meetup yesterday was we just gathered a group of 25 or 30 people just sitting casually around tables, a couple of handheld microphones.
Yeah.
There was a structure. There were 3 different kind of very broad topics that we wanted to kind of lead with. But we just had a conversation, and it wasn't sort of, let's talk about stuff and then any questions from the audience. It was an audience-driven session, and the attendees spoke to each other as much as they spoke to us. And if you think about it, that is kind of what an online community is like, right?
Sure.
You have people responding to other people and answering questions, and someone else weighing in on a topic and whatever. And the moderation is actually relatively, it's either very light touch or it's actually invisible.
When it works well, the moderation.
When it works
well, the moderation is, as you say, it just melts away.
Moderation just becomes kind of facilitation, really. So we want to kind of empower a community to talk to each other. And as a marketer myself, obviously, and having been in the industry quite a long time, I've seen AV industry marketing really kind of mature and develop, and it's now at a point where I think it needs that a community and of people who can exchange ideas and experiences, and of course one of the big topics was, much as I tried for it not to be this, because we're at a very large trade show, and it's our trade shows are nothing if not platforms for experiential marketing.
Sure.
There was a lot of talk about the return to in-person events and what that means for marketers, and a lot of really, really good discussion around that topic.
Okay. So you've kind of covered one of the questions I was going to ask you, which was what's happened in what you're doing in the last 12 months. The launch of the Exchange platform is really interesting.
Yeah.
What comes next? So you've got the show is back, but actually it's very different. You've had the launch of AVIXA Xchange. What comes next for you?
I think you know what, Guy, it's having gone to quite a few of the sessions that we've done, having led some content. There are about 20 different places that the AV industry can go in the next 5 to 10 years, and so for me, it's really tricky. It's incredibly exciting. I think there are so many areas. You think about where AV was before the pandemic, and the big complaint from our community, as productive and as prosperous as it is, was, oh well, AV is the last thing anyone thinks about, and if only we could be on the beginning of projects, everything would be so much better. Well, suddenly we are, because of the pandemic, and people have realised that audio-visual communication is essential, and it's the key to kind of enterprise productivity and so many other things that people and businesses are looking for. So suddenly we're there. We're right at the forefront as an industry, and because that's where we are, there are so many things, so many areas that we can start touching. We can start touching not just IT. We can start touching facilities management. We can start touching human resources. We can start touching building design and sustainability, and we can start touching, the interconnectivity of people through every device you can imagine. Suddenly, that's all potentially AV, and yet we still just sit around talking about Pro AV as if it was, just projectors and screens and a couple of mics suspended from the ceiling. So.
Do you think the kind of content and all that AVIXA is producing then will move more into that area?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable, Guy, and I think what that means for us is it's going to be really important for us and for ISE and for all of our shows to realise that we can't do everything ourselves. The only way to do 10 different new things is to do them all badly.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really important that we partner with more with other associations, with other groups who have areas of expertise, who have social networks, who have business networks, and we can use their expertise and they can use ours. So we become less and less, I think, content creators, and more, as an association, we become content creators less and content curators more.
Right.
And it's about bringing other sources of expertise into our industry, into our community, so that we can learn from. And it's about learning more about your customer. Whereas before, I think we had a very narrow definition of what an end customer of AV was. I think now it's a very broad spectrum of stakeholders, and finding out what they all need is critical to the next stage of our development. But we don't know that. You don't know that. ISE doesn't know that. The only way to find out is to ask those people themselves and bring them to us. And I think that's the big thing that we've got going on, not just the next 12 months, but probably the next 4 to 5 years.
Well, Dan, you're a very busy man, and
you are too, Guy.
I wish we had more time in the day, but that was an interesting answer about where we need to go and who we need to work with. So thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.